The floorboards groaned under my weight, a familiar sound, but tonight it felt different. Like a warning. I paused, listening. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that presses in on you, thick and expectant. Outside, the wind whispered secrets through the ancient oaks, their branches' skeletal fingers scratching at the storm-lashed windows. I was in the attic, a place I'd avoided for years, a place my grandmother always said was best left undisturbed. But curiosity, that insidious serpent, had finally coiled itself around my resolve. I'd inherited this old house a month ago, a sprawling Victorian relic filled with the ghosts of my family's past. It was a beautiful, melancholic place, but the attic, that was a different story. It was a vast, cavernous space, choked with dust and forgotten memories. Old trunks lay scattered like fallen soldiers, draped in cobwebs that shimmered in the single beam of my flashlight. The air was heavy, stagnant, carrying the faint, musty scent of decaying paper and something else, something I couldn't quite place. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. Some things are meant to stay hidden, dear. For everyone's sake. She'd never elaborated, her eyes clouding over with a fear she rarely showed. I'd always dismissed it as the ramblings of an old woman, her imagination working overtime in the dim confines of her ancestral home. But standing here now, surrounded by shadows that seemed to writhe just beyond the reach of my light, I felt a tremor of her unease. I'd come up here looking for old photo albums, a sentimental journey I'd promised myself. Instead, I found myself drawn to a large, intricately carved wooden chest tucked away in the furthest corner, almost swallowed by the gloom. It was unlike anything else in the attic, darker wood, more ornate, with strange symbols etched into its surface that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves as I stared. My heart began to thump a frantic rhythm against my ribs. This chest, it radiated a palpable chill, a coldness that seeped into my bones. I ran a trembling hand over the carvings. They felt strangely smooth, almost warm, despite the icy aura. As my fingers traced a particularly intricate knotwork pattern, I felt a faint vibration, like a deep, suppressed hum emanating from within. Then I heard it. A soft, almost inaudible scrape. It came from the chest. I froze, every muscle tensed. My flashlight beam wavered, casting dancing shadows that made the stacked boxes and forgotten furniture seem to pulse with a sinister life. Was it just the house settling? The wind? Or something else? I told myself it was just my nerves, my imagination playing tricks on me. This was an old house, after all. But the scraping came again, louder this time, more deliberate. It sounded like something was trying to get out. Slowly, agonizingly, I moved the flashlight beam towards the lid of the chest. The carvings seemed to writhe, to twist into mocking faces in the flickering light. My breath hitched in my throat. There were no locks, no visible latches. Yet, the lid was firmly shut. Another scrape, this time from the inside, followed by a faint, dry rustling like brittle leaves skittering across stone. My skin crawled. I wanted to run, to flee down the creaking stairs and out of this suffocating darkness, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. A morbid fascination held me captive. I leaned closer, my ear pressed against the cold wood. The rustling intensified, accompanied by a soft, rhythmic thump-thump, like a tiny, desperate heartbeat. It was then I noticed the minuscule gap between the lid and the base of the chest, a hairline crack barely visible in the dim light. And from that crack, I saw it. Not a hand, not a claw, but something else. A flicker of movement, a patch of deep, unnatural darkness that seemed to absorb the flashlight's beam. It wasn't solid, not entirely. It was like looking into a void, a sliver of absolute nothingness. Then the thumping stopped. The rustling ceased. The scraping fell silent. The air in the attic grew heavy, oppressive, as if something had just exhaled. My flashlight beam, steady now, illuminated the chest. It looked ordinary. The carvings seemed still, the wood merely aged. But I knew. I knew what I had seen, or rather, what I had felt. The emptiness within that crack. The subtle shift in the air. I backed away slowly, my eyes never leaving the chest. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to slam the lid shut, to run. But there was a stillness now, a profound quiet that was more terrifying than the sounds that had preceded it. It was the quiet of something that had been disturbed, observed, and was now waiting. As I reached the attic door, I glanced back one last time. The single beam of my flashlight fell upon the chest. For a fleeting second, I could have sworn I saw the carvings on the lid shift again, coalescing into a single, watchful eye. Then, the beam moved on, and it was just wood. Just shadows. I fled down the stairs, the floorboards protesting my panicked descent. I didn't stop until I was in the kitchen, the familiar scent of lemon polish and stale coffee a welcome contrast to the attic's decay. I locked the attic door, jamming a chair underneath it for good measure. Sleep did not come easily that night. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind, sounded like that scraping, that rustling, that soft, insistent thump. I kept seeing that sliver of impossible darkness, that void peering from the crack. The next morning, the sun streamed through the windows, chasing away the shadows. The house felt normal again. I told myself it was all in my head, a trick of the light, the overactive imagination of someone unnerved by a dusty old attic. I even considered going back up to prove to myself that nothing was there. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because in the silence of the morning, when I was making coffee, I heard it. Faint, so faint I almost missed it. A soft, dry rustling coming from behind the locked attic door. And then a single, almost imperceptible scrape. They weren't trying to get out anymore. They were just waiting. And they knew I was listening. I haven't been back up there. I don't think I ever will. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is utterly still, I hear it. The softest rustle, the faintest scrape. And I know they are still watching. From the attic. Waiting.